Good morning and welcome to Show Me St. Louis. I'm Mary Caltrider. Thanks for tuning in, and those of you watching on 5+, thank you for joining us as well. It is Wednesday, April 26th, and as always, we have your daily dose of good news. This Wellness Wednesday, we are kicking off our show with a story of hope and a call for change. Pancreatic cancer is one of the most aggressive and deadly tumor types. It is known for its resistance to nearly all types of treatment until now. Washington University School of Medicine is leading a national clinical trial investigating a new novel treatment, the potential to change this disease as we know it. And it all started with Kyle Anderson. Take a look.
For Kyle, if you look at the statistic, it should have been 3 months.
On October 24th, 2021, crippling stomach pain led Kyle Anderson to the ER. On this day, the healthy, fit 47-year-old was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, predicted with only 3 months to live. It was then that the husband and father set out on a fight alongside his wife Kira and his 3 little ones, a fight for a cure.
This treatment is based on a new discovery from my lab.
Washington University medical oncologist Dr. Lim met Kyle shortly after his diagnosis. The Siteman Cancer Center researcher shared with the family about his lab's recent discovery. In simple terms, Dr. Lim explains pancreatic cancer cells have an immunity of their own, which is why it is one of the most aggressive and deadly tumors. However, his team discovered by blocking a major inflammatory pathway, meaning blocking the cancer cell's immunity, those cells then become sensitive to chemotherapy and some immunotherapies.
We have shown that in mouse models, you're able to make immunotherapy work.
The treatment more than doubled survival in a mouse model of pancreatic cancer. So then came Kyle.
The time when Kyle was diagnosed, it was a year and a half ago. The trial was not open yet. We were able to put him on a study on a compassionate use protocol, and he was the first one to receive it.
Kyle Anderson was the first human to ever receive this therapy. And while the therapy did work and was showing signs of hope, Kyle had other complications start to arise, causing him to step away from the treatment for a brief period.
So that's a common phenomenon with immunotherapy nowadays. And what you do is you stop the drug, you give patients steroids, and you try to calm down the immune system. And sometimes you risk having the cancer, fighting back.
After a courageous fight against pancreatic cancer, Kyle died on April 3rd, 2023. At the age of 48, death came much too soon, taking a husband, father, son, brother, and friend. However, it is his legacy that does and will remain with us all.
So we are looking at a very aggressive cancer that eventually miraculously responded to the therapy that we gave him. So it's just one patient, but it gives us a lot of hope that we are able to reproduce this data in other patients as well.
At a time when hope for survival seemed small, Kyle went on to live 17 months, including many more joys, family gatherings, trips, football games, and even a Disney vacation with his children. Kyle's courage, alongside the inspiring strength of his wife Kira, has resulted now in a clinical trial, extending this treatment to other cancer patients too.
We have had many inquiries from people all over the world who either follow him directly or indirectly. And we have a lot of emails asking, when the trial's going to be open, and they want to like to come and get onto it. So, yeah, in a way, Kyle has indirectly touched many people around the world, and people feel encouraged.
For the Anderson family, their fight goes on, sharing their story of determination in an effort to give families more time with their loved ones, but also hope. Kyle's story has and continues to change the lives of those around the world.
And you can find further information about the Siteman Cancer Center right there on your screen, as well as their phone number and their website. They have a lot of resources, so it's a must check out. And joining us live now is Kira Anderson and her mission to keep Kyle's legacy alive and, of course, changing lives along the way. So, Kira, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And we first want to just start off the show. You really are a friend of the show. We've had you on for countless Wellness Wednesdays, and we've all been thinking of you. You've been in our thoughts and our prayers on this show.
Thank you.
But your strength is incredibly admirable, that you insisted you wanted to come today, that you wanted to come on the show and to talk about this treatment and the hope that it gave you and your family, and the hope that hopefully it could give others.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me again, really.
So why don't we first start with just the treatment, and we hope that people got it from talking to Dr. Lim, but it was working.
Yes, absolutely. It was working phenomenally, and we were all overjoyed. I mean, there was a period of time where basically his cancer was undetectable. And as Dr. Lim was saying, for someone with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and really where we found it, you know, when we found it, it was everywhere. So we were just overjoyed. There was a period of time where we were making big plans years out. But unfortunately, cancer is cancer. And at any point, any opportunity it has to grow, it will grow, especially pancreatic cancer. And so, as Dr. Lim was referencing, Kyle did have some side effects from the immunotherapy, which can happen in some patients. And so he had to have several rounds of steroids, and those steroids essentially counteracted the immunotherapy. And so it's really a balancing act, trying to figure out how to reduce inflammation and begin treatment again. And I also want to point out my husband went through 32 rounds of chemo. And so his body at this point, when these complications bubbled up, had already been through so much. So yeah, unfortunately he lost his battle about 3 weeks ago. But we will continue to fight on in his honor, and for all of those that currently are struggling with pancreatic cancer, and that will, and hopefully some other cancers.
Of course. And so kind of going off about that, his legacy, I mean, it's remarkable to think this went from the mouse treatment to him.
It did.
It did, and Dr. Lim even emphasized that the way that Kyle and Kira have been spreading this story and spreading this message, they're getting emails from all over the world of people interested about this. And so just to think that the power of your story.
Yes, and I believe, you know, I think God is using us and using our story. Dr. Lim, so basically a few months after Kyle was diagnosed, you know, Kyle and I were in the office with Dr. Lim, and I just asked, like, what else is there? You know, because the standard of care treatment for pancreatic cancer, there's only a couple. Because a lot of researchers have backed off from pancreatic cancer because it's just a tough cancer to treat. Oftentimes it was diagnosed in older patients, but now it's hitting patients younger and younger. But Dr. Lim is still researching. He's not given up, still researching on pancreatic cancer. And he had mentioned this study he had done in his lab. And I remember saying to him, you're telling me that there's something in a lab right now that could potentially save my husband's life or at least extend it. I said, well, what do we need to do? And he's like, it doesn't really work like that. And I'm like, well, how does it work? And he said, we need money. And I'm like, how much? And he's like, Kira, this isn't, I'm like, no, let's talk about it. How much? And so we were able to get Kyle compassionate use, which is something absolutely amazing. It's something that patients are able to get kind of like a Hail Mary, and Dr. Lim worked very hard to be able to get him compassionate use of the drug. But then Kyle and I decided we wanted to go ahead and push forward to help fund a phase 1 study so other patients can try it too.
Okay, so let's talk about that, how people can donate, right? Because that is really why we're here and what we want people to do. Because, and Dr. Lim mentioned, when it comes to cancers, pancreatic cancer, GI cancers, they don't get a lot of funding.
They don't get a lot of funding, and the problem is they're on the rise. So one of my very best friends, 31 years old, got stage 3 rectal cancer out of the blue. Very healthy lady. She beat it, and she's a great example of that. But the point is that GI cancers are on the rise. So the thought is, if this drug works on pancreatic cancer, we're hoping it will work on other cancers too. Obviously, no promises. I am not a scientist, but you know, that's the thought process. So as far as funding goes, we have started a fund, the Kyle Anderson Fund. Those funds go directly to Dr. Lim and his research. So we've raised about $500,000. Our goal is $3 million, because $3 million is what it costs for a phase 1 study. So we do have a fund opened, and you can find it on my Instagram page, and you can also mail in a check if you'd like, if anybody would like to contribute to help move the needle on this awful disease.
Yes, of course. So all of that information that Kira just mentioned, that's going to be on your screen. You can directly donate in honor of Kyle by visiting, again, that website right there. Also visit Kira's Instagram page. I know she also has paintings that she's kind of turned to during this time that she is sharing and selling as well in Kyle's honor. So Kira, thank you so much for your strength and for coming here today. And you know, I think one of the most remarkable parts about your stories is, of course, it's heartbreaking, it's tragic, but you always talk about how you had 17 months. You went to Disney, you went on spring break, you had those moments of memories, and at this point, it is about helping other people have that hope and have that extra time, because our time with our loved ones is just so cherished.
Absolutely. Every day is a gift, and I hope that through our story, people realize that. And also, be aware of your health. So if something feels off, get it checked out.
Of course.
It's important.
All right.
So.
Well, thank you again for
Yes,
joining us
thank
today.
you.
And we'll be right back after the break.